I've heard you, Leo, talking about and in fact, I think I first heard you on Sunday saying, okay, we're going to make a pledge on this network
not to use the A word.
Not to use the A word.
Or the S word.
Exactly.
Or the G word or the C word.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I only really tend to talk about the A word.
Okay.
So even in my show notes, I said a radio station learns to be careful when saying
TV. I think it was TV, wasn't it?
CW
Channel 6.
Oh, you're right. Yes. ALEXA. So, of course, we know that the perils of automated purchasing are not new. I mean, especially Amazon, who's got those little dash buttons all over the place. The good news is they figured out not to accept another order from a dash button until the previous one arrives. But still, I have a feeling that some households are just going to have toilet paper piling up because it's just, it's there. It wants to be pushed, which, of course, is the brilliance of the whole concept. Anyway, another such instance occurred last week in Dallas, Texas, when a 6-year-old asked her family's new Amazon Echo. She said, "Can you play Dollhouse with me and get me a dollhouse?" Hey, it's the household bot. Why not ask it for, what Santa somehow failed to make happen 2 weeks before? So the device, of course, readily complied, ordered a KidCraft Sparkle Mansion dollhouse. In addition to, and I'm not sure how this was connected, 4 pounds of sugar cookies.
There probably was an additional interaction at another time, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Something else. She's like, well, while you're at it, yeah, while I'm playing with a dollhouse, I might work up an appetite. So the parents, of course, quickly realized that, what had happened, and I guess they weren't able to return them because they donate. I don't know what happened to the cookies, but the dollhouse was donated to a local children's hospital. So that has a nice ending. However, the story was picked up and covered by a San Diego, California news station, CW6. At the end of the story, the anchor, Jim Patton, remarked, he said, quote, "I love the little girl saying," and then he used the A word, "ordered me a dollhouse." According to CW6 News, Echo owners who were watching the broadcast found the remark triggered orders on their own devices across San Diego. Now, the anchor, Jim Patton, didn't think that any of the devices went through with their purchases, although, he would want not to. He told reporters the station had received reports of viewer devices attempting to order a dollhouse after hearing his remarks. So, and of course, we note from a security and technology standpoint that the Echo settings can be adjusted through the device's app. Users can either turn off voice ordering altogether or add a passcode to prevent accidental purchases. So I thought this fit perfectly, Leo, with our New Year's resolution on the TWiT network not to be glib about using those reserved words, because you can actually get in trouble when people are playing these out loud and we're within her hearing range.
I'm a little skeptical about all these claims because at least on mine, it asks me for a PIN code, which I have to enter to confirm it, and that is the default setting. So the only way that this story could really be accurate is if they turn it off, right. Which, if you have a kid, is a very bad idea. And then, did all the people watching the show also turn it off? I mean, what I suspect happened is in many cases, and this is what happens if you order something. It woke up, it responds, and then puts it on the shopping list, but doesn't actually buy it.
Ah, okay.
So the passcode is on by default. We checked that. So, good. I mean, I guess the parents could have turned it off. I don't know.
Yeah, and well, you can imagine that we know that there will be some people who will get annoyed by having to give it a passcode every time. And when they see the option, they think, oh, yeah, we'll just turn that off.
There's a good reason to do that. But even an ad can trigger it, or accidentally we could be having a conversation. You don't want to trigger sales accidentally. The passcode is a very good idea.
And I had one of those devices.
It's an Echo. It's always been an Echo.
I had an Echo in my living room where I watch television.
Yes, and it will get triggered
with the volume turned up. It will invariably fire her off every week or so. She'd suddenly wake up and the little blue ring would sparkle a bit, and I'd go, oh, isn't that interesting? But
but didn't order anything. The funny thing is, on the one in my office, I've changed the trigger word to Echo. So during this whole piece you've been doing, it's triggered twice. So you just can't win. You just can't win. There's three possible trigger words: the A word, but also Amazon or Echo. And what are you going to do? There's got to be a solution to this.
I imagine, what'll happen? So the reason there are only three is that, as we know, they are pre-burned in the firmware, and so there is wide and well-tuned generic voice recognition in the same way that anybody could walk down the street and say one of those words and anyone would be able to understand them. Because we have really good speech recognition built into our brains, those devices have been carefully tuned to pick up those words without training. The fancy recognition is up in the cloud, and so as we discussed last week, that word triggers the streaming of a buffer, which then sends it to the cloud for detailed. Maybe speaker independent, but also trainable recognition. But anyway, so the point is that my guess is in the future, you'll have much more latitude, maybe complete latitude, where in the same way that we train our fingerprint readers on our smartphones by giving them lots of samples of our thumb many times, and it builds up a composite image, you could train whatever you wanted as the trigger word by saying it over and over and over a number of times, in a number of different situations, different distances, different volumes and pitches.
It's not the future, it's the past, unfortunately. The Moto X allowed you to do that. You could have any arbitrary trigger word. And so I actually, I forgot what mine was, something like open the pod bay doors, Hal, but made it long, complex, and not likely to happen by accident. But they did it, and they don't do it anymore, and no one else has done it. So I don't know. It's more challenging, obviously. You have to train it.
And I remember seeing you sometimes not getting it to respond.
Right.
And so that's what you don't want is you don't want false negative responses. Neither do you want false positives. So I think it's that situation where we didn't quite have the horsepower needed to pull it off well enough for it not to be more trouble than it's worth. Yeah. So with today's horsepower, we can, they're able to build very good recognition for a few words so that it will very reliably trigger. My guess is that downstream, once we're on the A27 chip from, I guess that's Apple, not Echo, but the equivalent, then we'll have more horsepower, and you'll probably be able to just say, hey, this is what I want to, this is the phrase I want to use in order to wake you up. And then we'll be in much better shape. It'd be like everybody having the same password right now. It's just not a good idea.